This video is going to be a film study look at Kyle Van Noy's performance through 3 games with the Ravens, specifically focusing on the 4 sacks that he's put up in the last 2 weeks. 2 against the Raiders in our home loss, and then 2 on Sunday afternoon against the Cowboys in the 28-25 win. He's got 4 sacks this year, 6 quarterback hits. Really, he's a brilliant football player at this point in time. You have to look at the progression or the pattern of behavior, pattern of production, and recognize that that's who he is. Now, I'm going to explain that a little bit more here in a moment before we get started with the film. If you recall, he signed with the Ravens, I think week 2 or week 3 of the 2023 season. Ojabo's out. Oweh suffered an injury after a brilliant performance, a maniacal effort, if you will, against the Texans in week 1 last year. We had already signed Jadeveon Clowney in August, so they pick up Kyle Van Noy. It surprised me that no one else had signed him at that point, because the film from late 2022 looked like he was still a badass. So I'm talking about playing with the Chargers late 2022. Yeah, he did perform. He did dress and suit up in 17 games that year. But the last 5 games of the season in 2022, 5 sacks. And I thought it was quite obvious. He looked like a guy that would sign. Maybe he didn't want to until the season had started. It worked out in his favor. But here's a statistic I want to give you, and I want to suggest or ask for you to go check it for yourself. In the last 22 regular season games that Kyle Van Noy has played, so the 3 games this year, 14 last year, and then the last 5 games of 2022 in the regular season, take a guess how many sacks he's put up. You're really not going to believe the number. It's 18. 18 sacks in his last 22 regular season games. Along with that, 24 quarterback hits. Now, I didn't go look at some of the top edge rushers in the league and extrapolate their last 22 regular season games, because Kyle Van Noy didn't play every snap last year. He didn't play every week, I should say. Missed a little bit of time early in the season. I think missed the first 3 games and then didn't play in the regular season finale against the Steelers. At this point, this is who he is. Until we get enough film that proves he's not capable of it, I think this is what we should expect. This play against the Cowboys, I think, is pretty unbelievable. This is his spin move against the left tackle, Guyton. It's in the third quarter. It is a 3rd and 18. We are up 28-6 at this point in time. We as Ravens fans, we think the game is over, even given our history. It's the suddenness that he's playing with, if you ask me, and his ability to make moves in a manner that he still gains ground. Whether it's a spin move, whether it's a swat on the outside, he's always gaining ground towards the quarterback. I would say he's a very efficient pass rusher. Do I expect him to end up with 13 or 14 sacks this year? I mean, no, realistically, but if he plays 40 or 50 snaps a game, which I kind of don't want him to at this point, I'd like to conserve him and stretch out this level of productivity for 2024 and maybe even 2025. He's a brilliant football player. I thought that when I did a film study video of him during training camp in 2022, where I basically suggested I thought the Ravens should sign him. We did not until week 3, and he's just lived up to the billing. He's one of the best late season signings. Well, week 3 isn't late in the season. He's one of the best signings that I'm aware of that occurred after the season began. Moving back in time a week, he's sudden, and he's a load. I don't know what his weight is, but he's a big, strong guy, number one. Number two, and he's very aware of these tightly aligned receivers and tight ends at times. Van Noy at times has been, in my opinion, too focused on getting to the quarterback, but it's our scheme. We don't jam tight ends, we don't jam tightly aligned receivers. We go for the sack, and in some cases, well, as it stands with Kyle Van Noy right now, we get them. This is second quarter when we're still in a defensive battle last week against the Raiders, and then the rest of the film here will focus on his efforts against the Cowboys. Lined up against the right tackle, just a quick swat. Everything is so reactive. He reminds me of a guy who's been a professional boxer for a long time and always been in the top 5 or the top 10 in his weight class. When he is faced against someone who is, I don't want to say novice, but not an expert in body movement and reactions, it's swift, it's quick, it's almost instantaneous wins for Kyle Van Noy so far in the last 2 weeks, and it's against 4 different tackles. Well, one of them's a stunt against the Cowboys, so I guess I should say 3, but he's got wins last year in 2023 against so many different guys. This is just who he is at this point. How many sacks do you expect him to have as we finish up 2024 if he plays in 16 or 17 games. We would hope that we don't need to play him the last week of the regular season, but this position the Ravens have put themselves in by starting 0-2 and then now 1-2, we may need to win that final game of the regular season. He played 20 snaps against the Chiefs, well documented, 2 breaks of orbital bones, I guess, and then played 30 snaps the ensuing week against the Raiders, and I think played 40 last week. Of course, we were on the field a ton. This is the stunt for his first sack. It's in the first quarter. It's a 3rd and 9. Going to stunt underneath of Madubuike and Travis Jones, and he plays through contact extremely well. Now, we ran this stunt later on the sack/intentional grounding, where Madubuike gets to Dak Prescott and we don't get the benefit of the call. We ran it later on and the center's able to pick him up. But in this case, he loops all the way around underneath of those 2 D tackles. Center tries to peel off, just can't get enough of him. And it's the bend here, the ability to stay balanced and bend despite contact that I think is noticeable. He plays through contact extremely well. This is the aforementioned sack by Madubuike from the outside here, but watch Van Noy loop underneath, and then center 56 in this 56, excuse me. In this case, is actually going to be able to pick it up. So nice awareness by him, but as a result of Prescott seeing that flash in front of his face, he can't step up as quickly. So there is an impact that Kyle Van Noy has, and he plays team defense, in my opinion. There's an impact that he has at times that that benefits other players on the Ravens defense. He can't escape in this direction because Kyle Van Noy is headed there because the center peeled off to go get him. And as a result, Madubuike is able to get the hit that should have resulted in an intentional grounding and a safety. I think we all know that at this point. Every single pass rush isn't a win. I always like to show some losses or a little bit of balance to the videos, even when I'm praising a player like Kyle Van Noy so much. I like the older guys who try to come back and make one last go at it. I was not a huge fan of the way Yannick Ngakoue played with the Ravens in 2020. He's only 29 years old, but he's been with so many different teams. It seems like perhaps he's been around longer. So I will root for him, firstly. Secondly, because he's a Raven now, again, I would want him to succeed. In the case of Kyle Van Noy, I already thought incredibly highly of him because of how intelligent he played with the Patriots and so many other teams. The film from 2022, when I was able to go through it, again, we're talking training camp prior to 2023 season, I was impressed. Last year's performance in 2023 and the way he's starting off right now, I mean, he's playing downhill on a roll. This is back to that sack on the spin move. We'll show both angles of it again. All 22 end zone angle. You can see the tight end is there but doesn't touch him because he's concerned about getting out in a route. Van Noy's got rush versatility. And what I mean by that is it's not just his individual moves, an outside move, in this case, a spin move back inside the B-gap, a stunt that's delayed. Very good in pass coverage previously. Now, I did think he had one poor pass drop in a cover 3 on a 3rd and 5. It ends up being complete too. I think Brandon Cooks to our right side. I don't show that play in this video, but generally I find him to be a guy who takes really excellent zone pass drops. Again, the tight end is lined up close enough such that he could help. Maybe it's because he's 33 years old. At this point, teams aren't recognizing the need to help. But if he keeps getting wins like this, and clearly Guyton is trying to hold after the loss, if he keeps getting wins like this, wouldn't you think about chipping him some? He's been our most consistent pass rusher through 3 games, even though, of course, he didn't finish the game against the Chiefs. He did have 1 quarterback hit. They do, in fact, actually chip him. I'm not sure that it's because he's Kyle Van Noy. I think it's just because of the design of the play. As an aside, really nice job, if you ask me here, Ardarius Washington on CeeDee Lamb. Ardarius Washington, I'll have a video out, a film study video of him out late Tuesday night. Van Noy's been essentially chipped, doubled in here such that Dak Prescott could work to the outside. It's a 2-point conversion. We're up 28-12 at this point in the fourth quarter. I think 8 minutes and 30 seconds, something like that, left in the game. Really nice pass defensed on the next defensive possession. He's up here to the top side. I will show you the end zone angle. This is a 1st and 10 We're blitzing the nickel defender off the edge, so Kyle Van Noy, is not trying to rush at all. And I think you get a sense of it from this angle and from the end zone. There is no move being applied. He's literally kind of grabbing the right tackle such that the right tackle cannot go help out over here on this edge blitz by Darius Washington. We are manning up Eddie Jackson on CeeDee Lamb. Marcus Williams is trying to converge on this route by Jake Ferguson. And then 2 defensive tackles are dropping out. This is the glitch blitz, in case you didn't put that together already, where we bring the nickel defender off the edge, occupy everyone else on the inside in terms of the offensive line and the running back. So the running back is dealing with Kyle Hamilton over here. There's just not going to be time for Dak Prescott because of the nickel being a free rusher off the edge. Well, the pass doesn't get there to Jake Ferguson anyway. Why? Because Kyle Van Noy knocks it down. I thought it was his helmet at first, and then they showed the replay. Looks like he actually gets a hand on it. He actually checks outside to make sure that Ardarius is there. So maybe Ardarius was a little bit late. You'll see his helmet in a moment. He will actually visually look out here to the left as he engages the tackle, I guess to make sure that Ardarius was in the blitz. Perhaps, again, the timing of it was a little bit off, but that's the type of play. Look, he did that from the first game he played with us. When we went to Cleveland in week 4, he had 2 passes defensed in that game. I believe he had a sack, or maybe it was a quarterback hit. I'm not sure. It's been an incredible start so far for Kyle Van Noy. Very few missteps. In this case, other than the obviously the penalty against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game after the play. Interestingly, the Chiefs didn't get called for those things, but I digress. Missed tackle here by multiple guys. You'll get the end zone angle from this in a moment. Travis Jones going to loop around, and then Dak Prescott jumps to the inside, basically leaves him on a whiff, and then Kyle Van Noy also misses the tackle here when Dak Prescott jumps back to the outside. It's a 2-point conversion, so Dak is just trying to make a play. Ends up being incomplete, I think, to Dowdell over the middle. As an aside, really nice example of how well Trenton Simpson adjusts in the middle of plays. He's got great eyes. This is the 3rd time this year that I've noticed where he's involved in coverage. In this case, he's up on the running back right now, trying to stay as tight as he can. And then as Prescott escapes, he leaves Dowdell and then goes ahead and gets a quarterback hit. Marlon Humphrey's trying to cover it up. It's a great example of the athleticism that Trenton Simpson provides, the ability to adjust during the play. It reminds me of on the basketball court, there's certain guys who can play when things are organized, and there's certain guys who can play when it's kind of helter-skelter and things get going crazy. Trenton Simpson reminds me of a little bit of both. But as it relates to Kyle Van Noy, I don't know about you, I'm impressed with his play, but not surprised at this point. The film from the last 18 regular season game supports the belief that this is who he is at this point. It sounds crazy to be, I think, 33 years old. Maybe he's 34 at this point, but 33 is how old I believe he is. Maybe it sounds crazy to make the statement that this is what he's going to do the rest of the year. If he stays healthy, why not? Go look at the stats yourself and let me know if I've added wrong. Maybe it's his last 21 regular season games. Maybe I did add wrong, but I counted 3 games this year, 14 games last year, and then the previous 5, the last 5 regular season games of 2022 with the Chargers, 22 games, 18 sacks, 24 quarterback hits, an incredible run. I think one of the best signings that the Ravens have had in recent years for a player that signs either during training camp or after week 1. You guys let me know what you think of that statement. Feel free to go double check the stats that I quoted out to you a couple of times. And also give me a comment or an idea of what feedback, I should say, on the plays that I chose to illustrate how well he's playing, how versatile he is. I didn't include really anything against the run. He had 2 nice plays against the Chiefs against the run where he's involved in the play, but wanted to focus this generally on Cowboys film and the pass rush because that's the area of the game that we expect or we want edge defenders to be productive. And so far in his time with the Ravens, 17 regular season games, you're looking at 13 sacks. Quite unbelievable, if you ask me, from a production to game standpoint. And I just don't see any reason why we shouldn't expect it to continue. If you guys think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Kyle Van Noy's play early in the 2024 season, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.